I'd give anything for an order from the diamonds, but all they talk about is
Gems need a ruler. They're lost without one. That's just how gems are.
The old ways of the Empire are obsolete, as are the diamonds. That's why new gems have to fix it.
The new Steven Universe sequel, Lars of the Stars, will finally shed light on the origins of the diamonds. We know this because they plan to reveal it in future, but it's clear that Sugar decided to play the long game and save their ideas for a much larger story. And you know, this Lars show is already promising to reveal dark gem secrets. But here's the thing, how do you make something like this an organic, impactful reveal when the diamonds themselves are just kinda there now? They renounced their wicked ways and have dedicated the rest of their never-ending existence to helping gems and undoing the damage they caused. Knowing how they were made would be cool, but that's about it. Unless it's vital information to have, because it's something our heroes have to stop from happening again. What if disgruntled gems who are desperate to reclaim the power they lost thanks to Era 3 are trying to create a new diamond? Black Diamond. Someone who, on the outside, is intended to be a ruler, but behind closed doors is nothing more than a puppet and a weapon. Controlled by a secret shadow government that's been operating under the diamond's noses for thousands of years. And these gems are the true villains of this new series. And if you think any of that sounds contrived, just let me cook. So, the best place to start would probably be with the whole "they plan to reveal the diamond origins in future" thing, as it paints a much better picture of what this show will actually be about. I've mentioned plenty of times that the end of an era art book redacts information about how and why the diamonds were created. It's the only part of this massive timeline chart of all the characters that's been edited to hide information, and it always felt like a sign that Sugar had plans to continue the franchise, even back in 2020. But there's something else in this art book that I believe I only covered once before that I imagine a lot of fans have forgotten or never heard about in the first place. And that's brief mentions of a scrap story arc that I believe has become the foundation for Lars of the Stars, especially because this arc seemed to feature Lars. To quote Rebecca Sugar, Jack Pendarvis, Tanika Stotts, and Kate Sang, with only 20 episodes to wrap things up, there were going to be some tough decisions on whom to check in with one last time. Future does a good job of putting the cap on stories of a lot of characters, and even manages to introduce some new ones. Inevitably though, some questions remain unanswered, and so many fertile story possibilities had to be set aside. The extra Lars episode would have been nice because we were planning to include some clues about gem prehistory and or gem religion, I suppose you could call it. Very early on, there was the idea of the final 4 episodes consisting of a cosmic journey into the origins of the diamonds and gem culture. There was a remnant of that in the Lars idea, and then that episode fell by the wayside, and a lot of these secret ideas went away with it. So that's something else that changed as the complicated, intense nature of Steven's own arc became apparent. A 4-episode arc centering around a cosmic journey where we learn of gem origins is not only reminiscent of Lars of the Stars' premise, but it's also pretty obvious that these scrap future episodes would have featured Lars, as the little graduation set up him and the Off-Colors venturing off into space with the goal of spreading what they learned to other planets. I remember back in the day I was theorizing that this was setting up the second half of the season to be a big space adventure because it just made sense with how Steven Universe set up arcs in the past. But let's keep reading. I believe the interest in the past and in diamond lore is something that everyone wanted to see incorporated because it would help us come full circle into the future. Come full circle into the future is a very interesting choice of words, and while it might just be playing on the title of the epilogue series, I still think it wouldn't make much sense unless it was referring to the next chapter of the story. I'm not sure how learning about the diamond's origins ends up being a full circle moment in that context, beyond another diamond coming into the fray. And for the record, I do think Sugar was plotting on Lars of the Stars being the future of the franchise pretty much like the whole time, ever since Lars was reborn on Homeworld. Revisiting the podcast and this art book for these theory videos really has me noticing how much Sugar wasn't willing to say. Like how she said the first time Lars uses his powers will be really funny, but then also ended that thought with, "Don't worry about it," as if she already had the exact story in mind, but she didn't want to yap too much much about it. But let's get back to the book. We also bounced around an idea early on about Steven going into space for a multi-episode arc where he learns about the birthplace of the diamonds. But we ended up going in a direction that was more fitting for Steven's journey. We had a lot of time to watch Steven learn about his gem side. Future is about Steven exploring his human side, so keeping him on Earth felt right. With Future, we were originally planning on delving into gem origins. We always nod to it. Gems are obviously technology, and they have their own extensive mythology, but we were having trouble finding the emotional pulse to complement that exposition. So you get it. We're likely going to get a reworked version of this arc that gets into the nitty-gritty of gems and Lars of the Stars, with the diamonds being at the center of this impending lore dump. But how the hell do we go from that to Black freaking Diamond? How'd my brain land on that? Well, allow me to introduce the missing piece. Homeworld Shadow Government. So here's the thing, I definitely expect Lars of the Stars to tackle things like corrupt governments and revisionist history, because Rebecca Sugar and Ian Jones-Cordy are both massive fans of One Piece. There was a point where Sugar directly compared the two, owning up to the fact that she draws a lot of influence from the manga. There's a lot of connections you can make, like the 4 diamonds being akin to the 4 emperors, the 2-year time skip occurring in both series, and, without getting into spoilers, Steven and Luffy both being pretty big deals. Even though that reveal in One Piece didn't occur until after Steven Universe was done for a while. Lars of the Stars is going to be even closer to One Piece than the OG Steven Universe was, since Lars and his crew are space pirates. They're essentially bringing Sugar and Jones-Cordy's fanfics to life. And it's interesting that Homeworld is shaping up to be a threat in this show because, as many One Piece fans know, the world government is a huge antagonistic force in the series that is hiding plenty of secrets from the world, ranging from the Void Century to a true leader whose existence is kept under wraps. So I imagine similar plot points could unfold with Homeworld. That's not to say the diamonds were actually second fiddle to a supreme leader we never knew about, but instead, I think we'll learn that elite gems use the diamonds in their conflicts to their own advantage, allowing them to get away with a ton of shady dealings and downright heinous acts. Think Squid Game, and now you had a group of pink guards harvesting organs from dead players under the frontman's nose, capitalizing on their circumstances for their own benefit, with a higher ranking guard being in on it and thus being able to cover the operations tracks from the frontman. We've seen plenty of times that gems who really enjoyed eras 1 and 2 tend to be on the more narcissistic side and are completely self-serving. Yes, they relished any praise they received from the diamonds, but I don't think they were all that into worshipping them as gods. They were worshipping themselves, and they really just cared about the perks that came with their status. I mean, think about it. There are so many gems who didn't see eye to eye with the diamonds who decided to rebel against them. So I feel like there's gotta be gems who didn't subscribe to their ideology, but rolled with it in public so that they can keep living the good life. Something else we've seen throughout the original series was authoritative gems evoking the diamonds' names as a scare tactic, like Aquamarine threatening to have Topaz separated and shattered by the diamonds personally. Hell, Sapphire showed us how easy it is to manipulate the diamonds directly, so long as you make it sound like whatever you're up to is in their best interest. Sugar said that gems like Emerald are a big deal because they're at the top of the chain, right below the diamonds. Everyone reports to Emerald, who then reports to the diamonds, meaning gems like her get to pick and choose what the diamonds find out about, and thus they're in a position where it's very easy for them to withhold information and hatch their own schemes while the diamonds are none the wiser, enabling them to play the role of de facto homeworld leaders while the diamonds kept up appearances, especially because the diamonds were always caught up in their family drama, and once Pink staged her shattering, they were completely consumed by grief, isolating themselves, and judging by things like the resource crisis in Era 2, let their duties at the gem matriarchs fall to the wayside, spending more time at the zoo or on Earth than on Homeworld, and instead of focusing on their duties, developing things like horrifying gem experiments. More on that in a sec. We saw how easy it is for elites to rule over other gems and defy the Diamond's orders and unleash the light with Pyrope and Demantoid. They were already in control of various colonies and forbade gems from acknowledging the existence of Era 3. Pyrope even believed that gems needed to be ruled, and she had no qualms with stepping up and fulfilling that sort of role. She was basically already doing so in the first place. With all that said, I can totally see the elite gems all coordinating with each other to manipulate both the gems who serve them along with the diamonds themselves in order to build their ideal empire, effectively creating a hidden faction within Homeworld's government that the diamonds were never aware of. For example, with the knowledge that the elite gems ruled over colonies, even if said colonies were technically owned by a diamond, I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that elite gems are eyeing planets for themselves and convincing the diamonds to sign off on colonization.
This planet's ocean is such a lovely shade of blue. I believe it's the same palette as your hair, my diamond. We must acquire it.
Very well then.
Now that she's gone,
Listen up, y'all. I want that ocean to become my shiny new pool before this planet finishes rotation. Chop chop. Perhaps they were able to use this influence over other gems and ability to manipulate the diamonds and find loopholes in those the diamonds had written so that they're able to segregate and oppress gems that rank beneath them, ensuring the elites have the best quality of life possible while everyone else suffers. And of course, I imagine there was a lot of conspiring with gems, ranging from zircons to jaspers, to orchestrate events and ensure they had a particular outcome. Did a citrine see too much? Have a court soldier take them out in exchange for a shiny new pearl. An emerald can convince the diamonds that they deserve one. And don't worry about the court case. The elites already paid off the prosecuting zircon. The diamonds are gonna buy it being self-defense. I also wager there are more gem experiments beyond the cluster and 4-shard fusions. Experiments ordered by the elites and not the diamonds. I'm sure some gems would be more than happy to oblige with said experiments because just like how there's court soldiers who love fighting or lapises who love terraforming, there's gotta be gems out there who worked on the cluster experiments and loved it, so they wouldn't say no to other opportunities that made good use of their talents. Testing gems as power sources for things like vehicles, weapons, all sorts of technology, forcing gems to evolve, pushing them to their very limits against their will, to the point where these test subjects would shatter from all the pressure. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that would qualify as the dark secrets of the Gem Empire, right? The secrets and lifestyle that the elite gems are desperate to protect, which is why I believe they'll have returned to tradition in Lars of the Stars. To recap my last theory on Era 4, I believe that Era 3 turned out to be pretty progressive under Blue Zircon's leadership, but it's still an era that's destined to be messy as they're transitioning into a democracy for the very first time, especially since the laws Steven came up with in Unleash the Light are pretty vague and thus exploitable. Definitely needs a solid revision. The elite gems who were screwed over by Era 3 would ensure the pendulum swung back in their favor, electing Yellow Zircon in the next election and allowing them to regain influence in Era 4, making Homeworld a threat again as they regress into old ways, which is why they seem to be the presumed antagonists in this new series. And it appears Emerald may unsurprisingly be one of the elite gems who's playing a major role in this series, as Rebecca Sugar included pink and green hearts in her Instagram post for the series, and she has a track record of color coordinating hearts to gems in other Steven Universe related posts, which feeds into the idea that we'll be focusing more on elites and those who reported to the diamonds, yet still held a lot of authority, rather than focusing on the diamonds themselves. It'd still come back to a diamond, however, as I believe the Shadow Government, this hidden faction within Homeworld, would take advantage of this return to power and abolish their society's new democracy entirely, installing a new leader with their biggest and most dangerous experiment yet, Black Diamond. So there's a few reasons why I believe the threat of a new diamond would make sense narratively. It would allow us to learn the origin of the diamonds and the conditions required to create one. It'd create a sense of urgency in the story as the emergence of a new diamond could act as a ticking time bomb, something Lars has to stop before it's too late. I also feel like a new diamond is the only way you could create a villain who isn't at risk at being one-shot by the other diamonds or Steven without any of them being written out the story prior by bubbling, depowering, or, if they want to go there with the diamonds, shattering. Part of why the diamonds were such a huge threat in the original series was that they were unstoppable. Despite the Crystal Gem's best efforts, the most they could do against a diamond was bring them to their knees. It demanded a different solution than just throwing hands. So while I enjoyed the antagonists that came after the diamonds like Spinel, Bluebird, and I guess technically corrupted Kaiju Steven, I never once felt as if the characters were in actual danger. But if Rogue Gems are developing a new diamond, they could ensure it's stronger than white, yellow, blue, or Steven, sporting some sort of ability that negates all of theirs, which could tie into the black aesthetic. Black is the absence of light after all, but when it comes to something like paint, black is when you mix all the colors together. Maybe Black Diamond is meant to serve as the sole ruler for all gems, instead of the 3 to 4 rulers they had previously. Maybe she sports a bulk of the other diamond's powers, while also harboring one unique to herself. The ability to rob gems of their light. What would that mean exactly? I'm not really sure. But since gems have been described as light with mass, I'm sure there are some pretty wicked things you could cook up there. You could also argue that the Mantoid's ideology in Unleash the Light could have been paving the way for a new diamond to come into the picture. As an Era 2 gem, the Mantoid felt as if yellow, blue, and white had become obsolete. And when technology becomes obsolete, it's usually replaced with a new, upgraded version that improves upon the original. In this case, a diamond that's designed to prevent emotions from influencing her choices, only making calculated decisions. Thus, she's unable to be swayed by Steven like the diamonds before her. And you know, she's supposed to be a puppet. Someone for the elites to truly control instead of just manipulate like with white, yellow, and blue. I think there are plenty of gems who would welcome Black Diamond with open arms. Holly Blue Agate felt completely aimless and desired nothing more than to receive another order from the diamonds. And I imagine she's not alone. Pyro believed that gems need a leader. They need to take orders. It's simply in their nature. And judging by Jack Pendarvis's comments about Future initially tackling gem religion, I'd wager that Era 3 may have actually had a lot of gems questioning their faith now that they have to live in a world where the diamonds aren't treated like gods. That in itself has me curious about what gems think the diamonds' origins are compared to the reality of the situation. Like maybe they believe the diamonds were birthed by the stars, when in reality, they're technology with a creator just like any other gem. If something like that is the case, then I can see the creation of Black Diamond being spun as the advent of Homeworld's true ruler, the god that gemkind is really supposed to worship, and misguided gems will just eat it all up. As for how diamonds are created, what happened to their original creators, and why it'd be imperative to prevent Black Diamond's emergence, that's something I'd want to tackle in another video, as I actually have a lot more thoughts on it than I initially realized, and I already yapped way longer than I wanted to in this one. So with all that said, I want to know what you guys think about all this. Do you believe Homeworld could have had some sort of shadow government or a coalition of elite gems that manipulated the diamonds and moved in secret? And would you want to see a Black Diamond come into the picture? Let us know in the comments down below, and keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Instagram at AllStrikeVox and at Roundtable Vids. Shout out to Janky Bones for another incredible thumbnail. Be sure to follow them and commission them for some awesome art. And if you enjoyed this video, please sure to like and subscribe to the Roundtable with notifications on so you never miss a theory. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Peace!